All right, all right. Welcome to the Beyond Coaching Podcast. I've got Jacob Patton with me here today, owner of Strength Matters LLC. Welcome, Jacob. How are we doing, man?
Doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. It's a great day to be alive and recording a podcast. So we'll get
Absolutely. Yeah.
after it today, man. I love having these conversations. So, man, let's get started. You and I chatted before.
Mhm.
I've gotten to know you pretty well, and you were on track to be a physical therapist before switching to coaching. Tell me
Mhm.
about that decision and what brought you here into coaching.
Yeah, I think the main thing was obviously the finance part of it, right? I already had student loan debt and I went to a seminar and I talked to a physical therapist. I was like, hey, look, I enjoy doing all this. I coach already. I want to get my physical therapy. I want to get my doctorate. And I think that's the next step. How do you feel about that? Mentoring so many physical therapists and coaches. And he goes, unless you have that paid for, don't do it. Like if you're
Mhm.
taking out student debt, don't do it. He goes, based off of like the evidence that's coming out and the epistemology that he follows, you're not going to be hands on with a person. I'm not sure that coach be necessarily, but you're not going to be hands on down the line. We were trying to get people into exercise. So as long as you keep doing what you're doing, you're not going to really make a big difference having that DPT. Besides mainly the letters and some of the little nuances of stuff I don't work with right now, anyways, and that I wouldn't work with. Where it's something that he was kind of saying, unless you want to do X, Y, or Z that needs a doctorate, like knee replacements, this or that, don't even bother with it. So that kind of just strayed me to like, he's like, just keep coaching, keep going to seminars, get better at what you're doing, and you're going to be better off. You're not going to have even more debt on top of your head. So that was the conversation, and from that, it just changed my trajectory, and it helped because I ended up having physical therapists refer people to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. So I started school at Cal State Fullerton studying kinesiology. They've got a good program. And
Oh yeah, they do.
my orientation for kinesiology, we were sitting down and the person doing the orientation goes, raise your hand if you want to be a physical therapist. And at that time, I kind of wanted to be, but
Yeah,
I didn't raise my hand quite yet. And then everyone shot their hands up and I go, nah, I don't want to do that. Like,
yeah,
'cause I don't want to do, if I see around, like everyone's trying to get into that thing, obviously, like there's not enough room. You get
no,
into more debt, and then what? So now you have 7 years because it's a 3-year program, right? So 4-year undergrad, 3-year program, 7 years of school, likely debt to then go work in either a factory where you're just churning people in and out, like volume
exactly.
play, or you have to then go build a business anyway, private
Yeah,
practice, cash maybe if you want to do it right, or insurance if you want to
yeah,
deal with that crap. So like,
right.
I totally get it, man.
Yeah,
And I feel like as coaches, like our job is to prevent, it's either preventative, from getting to that
yeah,
point or helping people really get back to what they're doing long term. So I think
yeah,
that's an interesting thing.
yeah.
I know you were working at a gym for a while and there was a story you told me where you went to ask for a raise and instead you got told it was your last day. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it was interesting, right? It was so many other external things were going on. I had just proposed. I talked to my wife's parents. I asked for their permission. Was like, hey, I'm gonna get a raise. They're like, hey, don't worry about the finances. But I'm like, hey, this is I'm gonna get a raise. And then it went from that to have that meeting. Yeah, we're gonna get you a raise. So the next meeting was like, you're not a good culture fit. Uh, you're this is your last day, June 20th. And that's when I was like scrambled. Like, all right, what do I do now? And my fiance at the time was like, wife now was like, hey, you wanted to open a gym. And when I started working there, I said, I want to open a gym. She's like, this is your opportunity. And I was like, well, no, I can't open a gym right away. And she's like, okay, well, all right, well, what are you going to do? And was going into law enforcement. I was doing all the testing and all that. And that's when I was going through one of the testings and I was just like, you know what, this doesn't seem right. I don't know. I've always thought about doing law enforcement, but something about this doesn't seem right. But I'm like, I have no other choice. I have bills to pay, I have things to do. And then that's when my group of clients invited me to a little party. They had a speakeasy. So they made a speakeasy in their house, had a password and everything. It was kind of
That's
cool.
cool.
So we had like scotch and stuff. And it was a good time. And they sat down with me and they go, hey, we want you to train all of us. And I'm like, that's great, but where?
Yeah.
And one of the ladies said, you can use my garage. And she had a detached garage that was pretty huge. And I was like, all right, you guys are serious? Yeah, we're serious. Talked to my fiance, now my wife, and was like, hey, this all works out. And she goes, yeah, do it. So I bought, I think you could see one of them, part of one of them behind me, a squat stand, and that
Yep.
was all in the back of my SUV. I had a plate tree that's next to me. I had all the plates on there, and I just unloaded and was just going to house, reaching out to other people that I had trained prior. Some that I drove by their house and I knew of and reached out, and that's how it kind of started. It was just going house to house, building out a little mini gym in each person's house.
It's funny, like, I find that, I've talked with a lot of gym owners, and there's always something, like, a similar story to this where it's like, it just sort of happened. Like,
Yeah,
very rarely is it someone like their dream was always to open a gym and they had these plans and they were gonna do this. Like when I opened a gym, it was because the gym I was working at was closing and I didn't want to lose my clients. So I just like found a place that could rent me space and buy some equipment and I just went for it.
exactly.
And like that organic process, there's something special about that, and like getting that proof of concept, that confidence to be like, wait, I can do this. So actually, that's my next question. What was the moment for you where you were like, like this is working, like I can do this?
Think that was like we started with the original 7, and I think it was just the point where I started doing like free advertising on Facebook groups, and it started to churn where I was like, whoa, this is working. And then when people start talking of like, wow, Jacob's really helping me, man, I should tell my grandma, I should tell my aunt. And then some of those people, the word of mouth was really spreading, right? And that's when I was realized, I already knew how I wanted the gym to be laid out, and I kind of, without it testing the market, right, which I think most business owners think this is going to work. Testing the
Uh-huh.
market's a whole nother thing. But I already had full confidence that this was going to work because we're not a boot camp. We're not templated workouts. Like everybody's on a different plan. I can have someone with a knee replacement, which I did have, John, with a knee replacement, working over here with a younger guy, Ryan, squatting 500 pounds. And I knew how to coach both ends from the little time I wanted to be a physical therapist. I would spend like 3 or 4 years in a PT clinic. So I knew how all of this worked and how I could rehab people. So I think that's where I kind of knew what all the gaps that were missing that I have been in and how to fill them. And once I had filled them, now it's like I built it. It's here. Now will they come? And when they were
Yeah,
coming, I'm like, okay, now I just need to, work on all the back end stuff now with the business. That just
yeah,
because there's my friends, my childhood friends, his parents came by to do a trial session, and he'd been bugging them to come forever. And my childhood friends in the Air Force, he lives in North Dakota, and they came, and one of them was going to get shoulder surgery, his mother, and I said, no, 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 I could work with you. Like, trust me. She's like, well, I'm still going to do physical therapy. Like, yeah, yeah, go for it, but I can help you. She just had poor range of motion. The doctor scared her that like you had a tear, you need surgery, but she just had poor range of motion and she literally had no strength because she like was guarded. And this is just one example of like all the people we've helped that I'm like, okay, this is going to work. I know what we're
yeah,
doing. So yeah, that just
yeah,
trial and error of all those.
yeah. There's something to be said too about like having that. It's almost like, naivety, and
Mhm.
not in a bad way. Like, when
Yeah.
I opened my gym, I was so naive to, like, the potential for it not to work. Like, I just didn't even think of, like, it not working wasn't an option. I know for you, it's
Right.
probably was the same thing. You're just like, you
Yeah.
just believed, you knew that with you involved and you spearheading and leading the ship that, like, things were going to be okay, and having that, like, unwavering belief in yourself and the value that you can bring people. You've
Right.
seen it time and time again, and so I think that that's a huge motivator, and, there's something to be said about that, like, and starting so, like, younger, 'cause how old were you when you opened Strength Matters?
I was 28.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
was 20 when I opened SoCal, and, like, I just felt like, well, if it didn't work out, like, all good. I had so much time to figure out the next thing anyway, and same thing, like,
Right.
I feel like in our 20s, it's just so much easier to fall on our face and be okay with starting over versus doing that in your 40s. I know you have a little kid now and stuff like that too,
Yeah.
like, doing it as we're older when we have more, people to support it, it becomes harder to pivot and change.
But yeah. And that's what people early on were just like, when I was working at the place I was at before, they're like, just go open the gym now. We'll come with you. And I'm like, then the just being naive, I'm like, well, how do you do that?
Yeah.
But when the burner is on you, right? When you either float or sink, basically where I was at is I like did the LLC. I all of this in like less than a day. I remember I just had all this stuff done, built the website, like just was doing things. because what are you going to do? Just
Yeah.
sit around and just, stand at the door and like, oh, maybe someone's going to show up.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I think people underestimate how much you can accomplish with deep focus as well. Like these,
Oh, yeah.
and they get caught up in the complexities or perceived complexities of starting a business. Like starting an LLC is not hard. You don't need a lawyer to do it.
No,
You can go on
no,
LegalZoom and just get it done. Like it's super
no.
easy.
Yeah.
Or even website building. It's something we've talked about. Like
Right.
building a bare bones website is not hard, especially with AI
No.
tools these days. You could do it in
Oh,
like
yeah.
5 minutes. So
Yeah.
100%. The barrier to entry of starting a business could never be lower
Right.
at any point in time. So
Yeah.
not super difficult. Now running a sustainable business is a different thing, but
Oh,
starting a
yeah.
business, it's easy to start.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that I've seen you do is you focus on older adults. So what made you decide to focus on older adults as your main clientele, and why do you think they've been so consistent for you?
I think the main thing was the last place I was involved with, they focused on that. There's some other big franchises that focus on that because these are the people that are going to need it the most. And the value proposition is higher for them rather than a 20-year-old. This is just something cool to do. It hasn't maybe affected them as much not having strength, not being able to go on a trip, not being able to travel, not being able to move things around the house. So these in all honesty, this is the population that has the income for it, right?
Yeah.
So they're willing to put that money in. So that's why I focus on the 40 plus population, and because it's the most rewarding, right? Helping someone, like I just had a group in here earlier and she was telling me, yeah, we travel now. And I just put my suitcase in the top of the, whatever it's called in the plane and the storage. And before, oh, I could barely do that.
Hmm.
We go to Costco, I get the big pack of water and I carry it to the house. Before I couldn't do that. So it's some of those things as we're younger, we take for granted because we're still active, that we kind of capitalize on the people that are 40 plus, because a lot of people we've had in here have never exercised, or some had a small stint while they worked out. But even some of them are like, it was nothing like this. Like, I was just going from machine to machine and my coach just talked to me and then I left and I felt good after. But, you know, I don't know how much helpful it was besides, me just, kind of doing the same thing over and over again. So,
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I think the older population is a very underserved population in the strength training and resistance training industry, fitness, I guess, in general. And what people I
yeah.
think forget is like, retirees, first of all. So one of our pain points when we sell to people is time. Well, retired people have time. That's actually, they have
Yep,
tons of it. And
that's true.
half the time, the only reason they leave the house is to go to the gym. Like if they sign up for the gym, and it's great. So they have
Yeah.
time. And then they retired, so they have the money. Like they've obviously saved enough to retire, and maybe they're on a fixed income, but they know what they're bringing in. They know what they've got. And
Yeah.
a lot of people who have retired now have probably done pretty well because the economy had some really, really good years in there for the decades that they were working hard and doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
So they have money. It's okay. So
Yep.
the money objection's gone, the time objection's gone. And we talk about value, man, like you said, like these little wins from struggling to just do those basic things that people like me and you forget can be difficult as we age.
Yeah.
They get the value right away, so they get immediate gratification and return on their investment of training. And so you've got all three of these, like this combined thing, to create this like really good flow and formula for providing tons of value and getting all these people in. So I think what you're doing is amazing, not just because it's helping a lot of people and especially that population, but two, it's a great business model that's safe and
Yeah.
consistent.
Right. Yeah. And I think too, depending on how much people get into like the strength and condition history, I think it was the Nebraska Huskers was like the first team to have a strength and conditioning program, and that was
Mhm,
only like in the 80s or 90s. So it wasn't that
mhm.
long ago that people actually started lifting weights and realizing, oh, I can do this. I don't need to be a bodybuilder or a, Olympic weightlifter or a power lifter. And so the tide is changing where we can do this for health now. And people are looking at it like that more and more. Every time that someone walks through this door, hey, I read an article on this. I read an article on that. I'm like, mind you, this whole time, I'm like, I've known this whole time.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
yeah, 100%. And so there's some other gyms out there that have, let's say, a similar model to you, and I'm not going to give them any free marketing, so don't worry. But I'm sure you know which ones I'm talking about.
mm,
What do you do differently than some of those other gyms that have a similar sort of group class strength training model for that older population? What do you do differently? What's special about Strength Matters?
yeah, I think strength matters. What differentiates us from those places is, like I had mentioned before, someone can come in here and do rehab, right? We have a physical therapist that works here. I can take over, the basic training. That's one of the big things is just the rehab. And we work with people with, back problems in this where, I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure over there, I've heard people dismissed of like, hey, no, if you can't hit a heavy deadlift, you just need to try harder or suck
Mm.
up the pain. And, we're more gradual here. It's more methodical. We use RPE based training. We do percentages sometimes, and it's very, I don't know how I would explain it, but it's just step by step process. We're just building process. It's, we're not like, let's go all out every time. I'm slowly teaching people about RPE, how to push. And then before you know it, it's not often you see like 80-year-olds in here just like grunting and, slinging around heavy weight. And that is one of the things that'll differentiate us. And also just all the different exercises that we do that is just not only barbell. Mainly work with barbells, but we have dumbbells we work with. We have one leg extension machine that we use for knee rehab stuff. So I think that's what it would differentiate us. Just our method is um, everyone can do a different type of program after they do like a basic program that I've built out, a beginner program. Some people will like, oh, I want to do like bodybuilding type work, or I want to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and we know how to program here. That where over there it's more rigid.
Absolutely. That kind of ties me into my next question. We've talked and like you've taken total beginners to 500-pound deadlifts. Like, what's your process for getting quote unquote regular people strong?
Yeah, I think the one thing it'll depend on is the way I'll coach it, which is different from our physical therapists, right? People have their different coaching attitudes, I guess you'd say. I'm kind of just really wanting people to feel that heavy weight in their hands because a person that's never trained before, they don't know what hard feels like an RPE 10,
Yeah.
right? And when they're fresh and they haven't trained before, you can do that, right? Whereas if someone like us go, hey, Zach, go do a RPE 10, squat and then bench and then deadlift, you're toast for a week or so.
Mhm.
Where these people, I'm really trying to get heavy weight in their hands. Then that's when I kind of can start the coaching because now the technique is and that kind of takes some people a while. I'm like, hey, come on, we can add. No, that's good, right? And it's flying up. So the first process is that adding the weight in their hands. Then I start coaching the technique, and then we'll start introducing like back down sets. I'll add in like supplemental movements other than deadlift because when people first start, they're squatting, benching, overhead pressing, deadlifting. Unless someone has any kind of qualms with that, I'll change it a little bit.
Mhm.
But that's what they'll start with. And the one gentleman you're mentioning, I started with that, just the basics, and build on it. Do back down sets. We eventually worked to singles. I think at that point he was like in the 400s, and then we deloaded and okay, let's start more strength based now. Before it was on the beginner program, and let's work on singles consistently. And I adjust the back down sets, play with the numbers, play with the supplemental movements, the volume, and before he knew it, he's like got a 515-pound deadlift, and he's like, wow, this is amazing. Mind
Yeah.
you, he did that, experienced all the fatigue, and he's like, okay, I just want to do like high rep stuff now. Like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
fine.
That's
But
That's
it's
incredible though. I
yeah,
think there's something to be said about taking lifters from, A to Z. So like we get
yeah,
you always have like the coaches who, showcase a lifter and they used to pull 500 and they helped them get to like 535 and that's a win. It's like, no, but you took someone from zero to something, right?
yeah,
And I think that is hard. It's difficult. And it takes time. But it bears the most fruit as
yeah,
well, process wise. So for the client and for you. So I think that's freaking
yeah.
epic, man. One of the things that you mentioned is you used to take every client loss personally, like when you lose
Right.
someone.
Yeah.
How have you shifted your mindset to stay positive there?
I think as we've tested the market and we've had so many people coming in that enjoy what we're doing, I just realized at some point what they wanted and what we offer didn't match. And that's when I'm kind of like, okay, we're just going to get better. And sometimes I reflect back like, you know what? I think maybe as we grow, they'll reflect and be, oh man, that was a good place. Maybe I'll try them again. But I take it less personally of like, I know how great our product is and I know how many clients we're helping that we're not going to be able to match up everybody, to, how we coach. Because a lot of people, in the gym fitness kind of world sometimes don't always want to get strong. They kind of want to talk about where they go to train. Oh, I train there and I do this and I do that. And that just not what we're about. I'm very on pushing people beyond what they believe they can do. Only because I feel like that's just so powerful of pushing people what they can do is just because I played sports for like 20 years. And when a coach is pushing you, you realize, wow, I can't believe I just did that. And it's also just goes into business and life. There's so much you can do that you don't realize you have the potential for. And I think that's a powerful thing with coaching of just helping people's self-esteem and confidence as well. They walk a little bit taller when they leave here. Like, wow, I just crushed that weight. And that whole part of it too is the kind of the psychological portion of training is fun as well.
Yeah, it's almost like you see something in your clients that sometimes they don't see in themselves. Like
Right.
you have actually more belief in them than they do themselves. And I think
Exactly.
that's the core of coaching. It's
Yep.
identifying, I guess, the opportunity, potential someone has,
Mhm.
and then exposing those traits and adaptations over time through prescription training, things like that. And guiding them through that process so that they too can feel it. Like you said, walking tall out of the gym, like that in itself is a huge win. And you can see it in someone's confidence and demeanor when they
Yeah.
feel so much better about themselves, their life, their livelihood, their health, their fitness, and all that stuff too. So I think that's a huge bit right there. I think
Mhm.
that's really important. You've niched down into like a specific demographic with we've talked about the older clientele. Was
Mhm.
there a lesson you learned that you were trying to be everything for everyone at one point? Like what's a lesson that you learned along the way when it came to niching down and things like that?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, maybe one of the obvious lessons was younger people don't have money to spend on
Yeah.
coaching. So that just automatically eliminates that population. Mind you, there's some in here that are like, oh no, I'm going to pay it. It's in high value for them because of
Mhm.
maybe a health problem or something. But would just nail down the niche is just these people are also more mature, right? As older population and they need the help. They're also one of the most like untapped population for training because there's not
Yeah.
very often that older people are getting training, right? It's just not, and we did our little search. I think it said something like only 10% of the people around here in San Dimas get the training they need.
Mhm.
So it's just part of an untapped population. And our baby boomers are such a huge amount of people that
Mhm.
there's everybody I know here has a friend, family member, a relative that they wish could come here that either live too far or they're just older now that they just can't move and get here. So it's
Yeah.
like, hey, if we can prevent that, then why not?
Yeah. Yep. And the boomers, the wealthiest generation that we've ever had or ever have had.
Mm.
And I think that like what you said, a lot of coaches they want the quote unquote like I was going to say sexy clients, not sexy in the attractiveness way, but like the client who's like super strong, motivated,
Yeah,
young, wants to compete or be an athlete and this and that. And the fact of the matter is, something I've said is like you can't build your business on the 1%. It just doesn't
no,
work that way. And
yeah,
so you have to focus on the people who will pay your bills because to stay alive as a business, we have to serve populations that we know can afford us. And so,
right,
if you're a coach listening to this and you're trying to coach collegiate powerlifters or whatever it is, it's like kids in college, they're maybe on parents' payroll still, maybe not, maybe in a transition. Like they can't afford it. Like they just can't afford to do high ticket training typically,
no,
and they're very dynamic and they churn fast too because they get another
yeah,
idea and try to move on to other things really quickly. Versus older clientele or more established people are more they play long term games to win long term prizes because they've been around a
yeah,
while and they
exactly,
know that the longer we play, the again the bigger the prize at the end of the day. And so I love that idea. I think that focusing on the people who can actually, not, of course, afford the service, but again, gets the most value from what you're offering, I think is very, very important.
right, yeah. Yeah, it just
100%.
one of those things too you mentioned is I've been the trainee, for football training and sometimes some of these places have like 40, 50 people because, each the guy's charging each kid like $100 or something. So
Yeah.
he needs to And then that's when the quality goes down. Whereas here we're, six people at a time, one coach to six people. And as we expand, maybe we'll go up to eight. But 6 to 1's pretty good, especially because everyone's doing something different. It's not a templated workouts.
Hmm.
That's just where we're at. But
Yeah,
yeah,
100%. And I know you kind of alluded to some of the research we did. So like I know, me and you have been working a little bit on the
mhm,
marketing and sales side of things, website stuff. And like we ran a deep research analysis on some of like the market share and the marketing in the area and what people are doing. One of the things that you've had a lot of success with are these Facebook groups that these, clientele are in, which I think is amazing. And one of the things that I think is really cool that you're doing is you do your lead magnet is a free strength and balance assessment, if I'm correct.
mhm.
Take me through that and how that has helped you grow your sales funnel and get people into the gym.
Yeah. So I think the main thing with that is people, when you assess people, they're wanting to see what is my score? What is it going to be? How am I going to do on this? And when you show people, right, no one's going to be perfect. So no one's going to do great on this per se. And if they are, they're probably the wrong population coming to us. But when these people are doing this, they're realizing, wow, I can't squat without holding on to the chair. I need to use my arms, right? Oh man, I can't walk in a straight line because I'm wobbly. I don't have the strength to do that. So just getting these things for these people, showing them that doing some of these basic movements, which is just always incredible to me. People try to overcomplicate things. Doing some squats, doing some overhead press, some bench press, some deadlifts, for a few weeks is dramatically going to change someone's health trajectory and just their physical output, what they can do. So just going through with those things, with people showing them how we can help them and how, well, first off, most of them have been doing nothing. So being sedentary isn't going to get you anywhere, but
Yeah.
starting to just implement these basic movements, you're going to extend your life.
Yeah, I love the idea of like a scoring model. Like they're actually getting
Mm,
scored on this where you can, obviously take them through it. You write down your notes, you score it, and then therefore you can give them an output of okay, you're here. And then what you're doing is you're just connecting the dots from A to B. So you're like, okay,
right.
you're at A. Here's how we get to B, and here's how we're gonna help you. Here's how I'm gonna help you do this. And it's like it's an obvious solution. It's very easy to then sell them into a membership that we know is the solution to said problem versus sort of a sales consultation that's kind of like, okay, here's what we do. What do you think? And
Yeah.
it like that doesn't work. People want clear tactics and tasks to get them to the goal and the endpoint that they're looking to get to.
Right. Yeah. And some of the people that have been so committed here was also some referrals from a physical therapist I work with. And he's kind of communicated to them, hey, you coming to physical therapy once or twice a week, maybe three times, that's not enough. Like we need to have a regular exercise program going on in the background. And the type of place he works at, they don't offer that, and nor are they going to be able to set that up without supervision. So some of these people coming here too, it's such an easy transition of like, okay, yeah, here's what we're gonna do. This is how we're testing you, working on range of motion here. This, if we do some overhead press at an incline, we lighten the weight. We start with light dumbbells. This is what's going to help build up that shoulder strength. Or we can use other examples. That's when people are like, wow, okay, yeah, I realize I do some of this at physical therapy, but I don't have a whole program.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's freaking awesome. And yeah, and I love the idea. Like, I think coaches listening to this, gym owners should focus on like a sort of free or low ticket offer that gives people
Mhm,
value, like what you're doing with your free strength and balance assessment. I think that
mhm.
there needs to be more of that to get people in the door. So if you're listening to this and you have a marketing or sales problem, it may not be that you're not marketing enough. It's that your offer isn't good enough. Like you're
Right.
trying to sell something high ticket out the gate instead of providing value first. And that I will say this, like selling something high ticket out the gate, I think worked 5 to 10 years ago. It for sure did. I used to sell for another coach. I was like their back end guy. And like, I used to sell high ticket online coaching over email, like easy as that person. Like it
Yeah.
was, here's a PayPal link, sign up, 250 a month, done, easy. Now there's so much saturation that we really have to provide value first before they trust us, commit to us and buy in. And there's an exchange of funds, to a high ticket thing. So I think
Right.
that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. As we start to wrap up here, one of the things I always like to ask is, what's the number one or maybe one or two pieces of advice you'd give to a coach dreaming of opening their own gym?
I think the first thing would be just start somewhere, start the LLC like today. if you're thinking about it. And one of the next things would be find your niche, and you have to capitalize it, but you also have to realize, is the market there? So there's so many niche little, exercise type things, some that I don't agree with, but people doing well doing them. So you have to find your niche. You have to first start. So like start now, start yesterday, something, LLC, website, build it out, because now it feels more real. Then from
Yeah.
there, find your niche, see who you're gonna market to. And it can't be everyone. It can't. It just there's no way. And if it is gonna be everyone, then you're gonna have to have a large facility, start bigger. There's a lot of things that go with that. But I think just starting now, find your niche and market to them. And make sure you're marketing only to them.
Yeah, because speaking to everyone means you speak to no one.
Yeah. Yeah. If everyone's
100%.
everyone's amazing, no one's amazing. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Well,
Mr.
hey,
Mr.
Jacob. Yeah. Well, hey, dude, I really appreciate your time, man. I think that this
Mhm,
is some awesome stuff, and what you're doing over there at Strength Matters LLC is huge. I mean,
mhm.
I'm excited to watch you continue to crush it, man.
Yep, thank you. No, appreciate it.
Absolutely, brother.